Okay, so this is a new video, game I played recently versus a 2100, and this is basically how you would fight back against a winning position for the opponent's side. So we start the game off with d4, which is one of the two main openings, and I play knight f6, intending to get to a Nimzo Indian with here e6, and then after knight c3 I would play bishop b4 and get into that position, which is a lot of fun. My opponent instead goes for knight f3, and I just continue to play it simple and transpose the game into a queen's gambit declined, which is just pretty much the average what you're supposed to do here. My opponent goes g3, I go bishop e7, which is a move, intending to castle. I would love to, I don't want to commit too quickly with c6, and I don't have a good square for my knight or my bishop, so I'm just intending to castle, play h6, and hopefully I'll be able to play e5 in the future and develop my bishop. My opponent plays bishop g2, castles, and now I play c6, mostly to blunt this light square bishop. And I'm doing worse, but in Catalan, you're always kind of supposed to be doing worse, so I'm not really too sad. And my opponent is very good, so I'm not really expecting too much from this game. So my opponent goes knight f3, developing, and I realize my opponent has a lot more good developing moves than me, because I have two pieces that are kind of stuck, and all four of his minor pieces are able to get into the game relatively quickly. So I go h6, mostly a waiting move. I'm also stopping bishop g5, because of bishop g5, for example, let's go a6, bishop g5, h6 here. I probably wouldn't play g5. Technically, it's okay. My computer doesn't kill itself. Oh my gosh, that is loud. Okay, so we're back. That actually took a very long time. But anyway, yeah, the reason why I don't really like this is because of this knight takes, and then he gets some stuff here. He gets some activity. Why is feedback on? I don't really enjoy these positions. I feel like my king is super weak. He can play something like e3, bring the queen over here, and then it's hard. So that's why I played h6. And my opponent goes h3, and I play rook e8 with a pretty simple idea. I want to either go bishop d6 and play e5, or bishop f8, knight here, d5, and it's logical. It's simple, really. So my opponent goes for this b3 idea, and I decide instead of bringing my bishop back to f8 and being passive, I'd rather move my bishop in a more active fashion with bishop b4, right? And I'm attacking the knight, so he has to spend a tempo and play bishop b2. I then play knight bd7, which prepares the move e5, and my opponent goes a3, bishop f8, and I'm trying not to block my rook, of course, so I can still play this e5 idea, which is kind of like the whole point of my position. If I'm able to get e5, I get this bishop active, I get everything kind of working together, and I probably wouldn't have a disadvantage anymore. Let's say hypothetically, like I get e5 off, takes, and he doesn't actually win my pawn over here. He plays like, I don't know, here. Nah, not there. That actually is a decent move, like this, for example. Then, I mean, I'm slightly worse. I'm slightly worse here, but it's a lot better than the constricted position that I was in previously. So that's the whole point of my position, and my opponent goes rook e1, probably trying to play e4, and I play knight b6. And the idea of knight b6 is pretty straightforward. I've decided that e5 doesn't really work, right, because I would lose the pawn on d5. So I'm going to instead just attack this pawn, and if he pushes forward, I'll go back, and then e5 will work because this pawn is defended and he doesn't have a pawn attacking it. So he comes back, he defends his pawn with knight d2. I just take anyway, knight takes, and I go knight d5. And I decide that, I mean, if I were to take, I thought that taking was not the right idea, because takes, it's actually the best move. I didn't think it was the right idea. because I mean he gets some stuff. He has these pawns. He's a very large center. He's gonna play this, but I guess I can probably play like e5 at some. No, not e5. Maybe c5 at some point. I have no idea what the move here is, but it's complicated. He's gonna get a big center, and I'm probably gonna lose. So I didn't think that was the right idea. So I instead put the knight in center. My opponent goes e4, which I thought was his plan, and I was gonna go knight f3. Pretty straightforward. Bishop takes, and I go c5. The idea is very simple. If takes, bishop takes, I think I'm getting somewhere. He only has one pawn in the center. His center advantage is kind of gone, and I'm going to be able to get my bishop out like this afterwards. So I thought this was pretty smart. My opponent plays d5, which loses some advantage, and it does kind of the same thing that my idea was. It was still working to try and get the center out of control, and yeah, so I take, and my opponent has this amazing idea. I thought I was going to win a pawn here because I just didn't see his move. He has bishop takes knight, which actually gets a mistake, and that is confusing to me. I really didn't think that would get a mistake, because the idea is simple, right? Queen takes, and then I wouldn't be attacking this pawn anymore. But actually, in this position, giving up the bishop pair is completely winning. Well, actually, no. It gives black a better position here, and that's incredible. Like a move he could have played here is maybe he could play e5 at some point. I think this is probably decent, probably his best try. I go back here. Well, no, not there. Maybe here or something, and then I mean he has some stuff. He's gonna take this pawn, maybe with the queen. And I don't know. It's complicated. Actually, if queen takes, I have bishop e6. So then bishop takes is probably the best move. Oh, but then bishop takes, he gives me the h3 pawn. I don't know. It's complicated. This position was very, very complex. And so takes, I just traded the rooks. I thought this was best, and I actually have a slight advantage here. And the reason why is cool, because this pawn, after the reason why I traded the rooks here instead of waiting, is because if I played like this move, for example, he might be able to push in some lines. I thought that was scary, like rook takes, and he might be able to push this move. And I'm like, am I too fond of that? No, not really, not exactly. It's not really my thing. Actually, now I'm looking at it, I probably can just take. Yeah, I probably can just do this, because after here, I get the rook here, I'm going to win the knight back. Didn't really see that, but it's okay. Yeah, that was kind of my plan. So that's why I traded rooks and bishop here, and then my opponent just totally malfunctions and just resigns. Very sad, actually. I wanted to play this game on because I thought maybe, okay, like I'm in a better position, right? I knew I was in a better position. I thought I'm actually better here because I'm stopping this pawn from going forward. I have the bishop pair. I thought if anyone's gonna win this game, it's black, and I really wanted to show that on the board. I wanted to show how black could win this position, but fortunately my opponent didn't allow me to because of his terrible moves. That's okay. I mean, winning for free is always nice, but I would have liked to win with a little more gusto, I guess. So that was this game. Let's recap. So it was a Queen's Gambit declined Catalan variation, where I actually got into kind of a worse position off the bat, where everything was just pretty cramped, and I couldn't get two of my pieces out. I played some nonsense moves, and I really was trying to make something happen, but nothing really was going on, and white just had a crushing advantage for like the entire game. I decided to put my knight in the center, but this gave him the option of getting this big center, and it's very, very complicated. But I probably shouldn't have put my knight in the center. In retrospect, I should have taken here, but then the position that arises is just really, really hard to find a move, and I wouldn't know what to do there. I was able to play c5, which I thought was my only chance, but apparently it wasn't. It's actually a big mistake. The mistake arises here after takes, and like queen takes, rook takes. Here, I mean, This position I thought was decent because I was going to get my bishop out, but apparently the computer just thinks that this is completely lost. Maybe because of like this or something. Bishop back, and I guess I'm just really compressed here. Maybe instead of that he could play, he could take and ruin my pawn structure, but I don't know. Either way, made that big mistake, and I got into a position where I actually had a bit of an advantage with the bishop here. I got more activity, and I thought I might be winning here, but then my opponent just loses the game on the spot, and makes me sad. But either way, that's a win versus a 2100. A little bit undeserved, but I think I could have won that position in the end. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys made that found that instructive. If you're still here at like the 10-minute mark, like would be nice, comments would be nice, of course. You don't have to, but it does actually help out the video. Yeah, good evening and good night.